Hello, I'm Martha Dark, Director of Foxglove. Welcome to this press conference. This is taking place today following the first ever meeting between active Facebook content moderators in Ireland and elected officials. Today we'll hear directly from Facebook content moderators that attended the meeting this afternoon with the Taoiseach, the Irish Deputy Prime Minister, and those moderators were Ibrahim Halawa and Paria Moshfeghi. Today, Ibrahim and Paria raised their concerns about their workplaces being unfair and unsafe and asked Leo Varadkar TD to use his position to improve things for them and their thousands of colleagues in Ireland. They won several specific commitments, which they'll tell you about themselves in a moment. And joining the moderators today are Sinn Féin TD Louise O'Reilly of Dublin Fingal, who has been actively calling for better working conditions for content moderators in Ireland for months. Fionnuala Ní Brogan from the Communications Workers Union, Dara Mackin, Head of Public Law at Phoenix Law, who represents Ibrahim and Paria, as well as Corey Crider, my colleague and co-founder and director at Foxglove. Content moderators are a workforce of thousands all over the world, and there are over 1,000 content moderators in Ireland, and they are an invisible army of people keeping the internet safe, viewing harmful materials that never makes it to our screens. Facebook as a platform simply couldn't exist without this workforce, and they're not directly employed by Facebook, but often outsourced, underpaid, and made to sign very restrictive non-disclosure agreements, and they can't tell their families that they moderate content for Facebook. They're subject to hours of toxic material without proper or meaningful mental health support. So Paria and Ibrahim, we so appreciate your bravery in joining us today. Ibrahim, we'll hear from you first if that's okay, so over to you.
Thank you so much, Martha, and thank you so much, everyone, for attending today. Excuse me. My name is Ibrahim Halawa, and I'm a content moderator here in Dublin. My shift is from 6 p.m. to 2 a.m., and I'm also a full-time student at UCD Law School. Today, of course, we had a very important meeting with Taoiseach Leo Varadkar, where we raised our concerns about our safety within the workplace and our healthcare and the separation of treatments between full-time Facebook employees and outsourced employees like myself and Paria and other colleagues who would have wished to come here today, except for the fear that such companies create for employees to not speak up and to sign away their life basically once they start. And for me to be able to do such a crucial job and such an important job, starting all the way from keeping the platform safe for your kid all the way to national security, that does not mean that I should have to sign my life away to be able to do such a job. I should be able to raise concerns. And today we had mentioned that with the Taoiseach, where he had listened, and he was very, very he had a great approach towards our concerns, and he had promised that he would write a letter to Facebook and he would share on his social media, and that he would write to Covalent about our concerns of treatment, our concerns about mental health care, our working from home during level 5 restrictions, and that was very crucial points for us to raise today, because there was a lot of employees that have messaged me and told me that Ibrahim, you are our voice, you are representing us, and that was very important for me today to bring to the table, having past history with Taoiseach Leo Varadkar, with my experience in Egypt, that he himself had done a lot of work and a lot of effort to try to release me from Egypt. And that was very important to tell him that once you had saved me, and I am living proof of your hard work, today the Facebook moderators or content moderators in general do really need you to stand up for them today. And it is very important to stress that we are risking our jobs. Me and Paria don't know what is going to happen to us once we go back to work, and we don't know what Covalent's response will be, or Facebook's response will be. We have tried all our means of complaining and all the channels of complaining within the workplace and the workforce. A lot of employees have showed concern. A lot of employees have wrote on the media, with their identities hidden, and that is not fair. That is not fair to work in a place in this modern time in Ireland and be in such fear to speak up just for improvements, simple improvements that I have mentioned that will be resolved once we get the exact same rights that the client employees get. And our jobs do depend on the approach that Tanshta Leo Varadkar will take today. So we had requested and we had stressed, and we do hope that he has heard our concerns and that he will work on our concerns after the meeting today. And we will hope to see some results very, very soon, because a lot of employees are really worried about their safety, about their mental health, and it's not fair. It's not fair that I have to go home and not be able to even talk about my family about such a job, or not raise my concerns within the workplace with wellness coaches who are not qualified to even diagnose me. And that is not fair on employees, that if we want to keep them to keep such a safe platform for everyone to use. And again, as Martha said, it is a very crucial, important job for everyone. And if that is to be kept safe and to be done well, we need to take care of the employees. So we do request, of course, that the Taoiseach has heard our request and that he will speak and share with it. We really want to thank him for taking the time off and listening to our concerns. And we do hope that that will an issue that finally can be addressed, because it took a lot of effort for me and Paria herself to step up and to come here and to talk to the media, because we don't know what the retaliation will be. So we do hope that we do see a good result from this meeting. And just to finish off, I really want to thank everyone again for coming here to listen to our concerns.
Thanks so much, Ibrahim, and thanks so much for your bravery in attending the meeting today. And I'm sure that your colleagues are very much interested in hearing the outcome. Paria, we'd love to hear from you. You also attended the meeting today.
Hi, good evening, everybody, and thanks, Ibrahim. I prefer to read through my test because English is not my language. My name is Paria Moshfaqi, and I like Ibrahim, and like Ibrahim, I work in Covelyan moderation for Facebook at Covelyan. I have been working with my employer for more than 4 years since 2016. I to attend a meeting with Mr. Varadkar today, and like Ibrahim, I found it scary to speak up because Covelyan and Facebook try to intimidate us. In the meeting today, I told Mr. Varadkar what is like to do my job and what I think needs to be changed. Really, it is my safety concern around COVID that led me to speak to Mr. Varadkar today. Today, I said that Mr. Varadkar must use his power to make our employer protect us from COVID in the same way Facebook staff are protected. We should be allowed to work from home. I think the companies are stretching the rules by forcing us to come into the office. I asked Mr. Varadkar to speak to my employer and ask why we cannot work from home if Facebook employee review content get to work from home. Mr. Varadkar said he would write directly to Facebook about us not working from home during COVID. I want to thank him for raising this. I hope he will pursue Facebook and Covelyan to change their position as a result. The thing that has most bothering me in years of doing this job is being treated as a second-class citizen. The people who supervise my work and do quality assurance are employees. They have real mental health. They have proper pay. Facebook value their work. Why doesn't it value ours? I said that we want the same rights and protection as Facebook employee. The way Facebook organizes this work feels discriminatory and unfair. Facebook is one of the world's richest companies, yet Facebook asks us to risk our life to come into work and keep Facebook safe and profitable. Can they afford to hire us? Mr. Varadkar said he would write and ask about different treatment between us, the outsourced staff and Facebook employee, and I hope he will. I also hope other cities in Ireland will look at the safety and dignity problems that come from outsourcing. Thank you for listening to us, and thank you to being our voice.
Thank you, Paria. Thanks so much for joining us today as well. Corey, I'm going to come to you next. You also attended the meeting today on behalf of Foxglove, and I'm interested to hear your perspective.
Thanks everyone for coming. You heard it from them. By speaking up for thousands of their fellow moderators around the world, Ibrahim and Paria did something heroic today. But the truth is, they shouldn't have to be heroes. Facebook has run in its workplace a culture of intimidation and needless secrecy for years. It's actually everyone's right to demand safe and fair working conditions in public. This culture of fear ends today. We want to thank the Taoiseach for his time and for affirming moderators' basic right, their human right to speak. And I really hope, on behalf of all of the workers, that thousands of moderators around the world are watching and know that they too have the right to speak, to organize, and to push for their own rights. Paria and Ibrahim are far from alone. Since 2019, Martha and I at Foxglove have spoken to dozens of moderators across Europe and in the United States, and all of them have voiced the same concerns you've heard. Moderators are tired of precarity and low pay. They're tired of having their mental health risked and hurt by doing this work. And now with COVID, their very lives without meaningful protection or support from Facebook. Foxglove really appreciates the letters from Varadkar that he pledged to send today that will investigate the safety concerns, investigate why these people can't work from home, will investigate why they don't have psychiatrists or proper mental health treatment, and issues like what healthcare they get and why they do get such disparate treatment between moderators and employees. This is the first step in an important public debate that we need to open, and Foxglove is going to keep pushing until the workplace is safe and fair and dignified. All of these problems really stem at their heart from outsourcing the core of Facebook's business. This is Facebook's most essential job. It keeps our public square decent and safe, but these people, you heard Paria, are treated as second-class citizens. This role is at the heart of Facebook and it has to be valued accordingly. Facebook staff who supervise Ibrahim and Paria's work are working from home and safe at home right now, but it actually goes farther still. I'd like to close, if I may, by comparing how Ibrahim and Paria and moderators are generally treated to another group of people doing similar work, policing public square at the very top of the food chain, the Facebook Oversight Board. This is a flagship initiative by Facebook, a kind of Supreme Court of Facebook. Each member is, I think, on a six-figure salary. And you in the press probably know it handed down its first rulings only yesterday about content. In doing so, members of the Oversight Board stressed how difficult the work was. They said the issues involved had enormous complexity. Okay, well, the Oversight Board sit at the end of a decision chain that began somewhere, possibly in Ireland itself, with a content moderator just like Ibrahim and Paria. The work of moderation is the same, whether it's done at the bottom or the top. So why do we as a society, why does Facebook value it highly enough at the top to have former Guardian editors and Nobel Prize winners do it, but at the bottom, not to give people proper pay, proper job security, or mental health care? Just like the grand people on the Oversight Board, Ibrahim, Paria, and thousands of colleagues are doing the work of an editor or a judge. Yes, they do it in volume. Yes, they do it at speed. But if we value it at the top, we need to value the work of trial court judges too. Foxglove are proud to stand with the growing content moderator movement. No more secrecy, no more precarity, no more outsourcing. It's time tech giants and regulators valued this work. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Corey. So next we'll come to Dara, if that's okay. Dara is Head of Public Law at Phoenix Law and represents Paria and Ibrahim.
It is difficult not to have concerns about the lack of engagement and sheer disrespect that has been afforded to workers within the content moderator industry more generally. Ibrahim and Paria have taken all steps to raise their concerns in advance of today, both internally and externally. Ironically, those who are employed to keep us safe are themselves not kept safe. It is unfortunately a policy of do what I say, not what I do. In addition, in the lead up to today, we have sent numerous letters to both CPL and Facebook and their lawyers to try and ensure maximum transparency in the lead up to the meeting with today with the Taoiseach. Facebook, to no surprise, denied responsibility for the moderators as employees. Covalent, the employer, didn't respond at all. Unfortunately, what we see is clearly a policy of hear no evil, see no evil, and certainly speak no evil. this, we say, shows a profound lack of respect for their own workers. Content moderators, we say, can today take great comfort from the Taoiseach's statement and the fact that when we stood up and asserted that these people's rights to talk about conditions, about safety, about dignity, and about pay, like any other playground bully, they went away. Today is the beginning of the end of the fear for these workers to speak out. Today is the beginning of the end, we say, for the culture of secrecy that has been adopted within the social media industry.
Thank you, Dara. Louise O'Reilly, if that's okay, we'll come to you next. Louise O'Reilly, TD for Dublin Fingal. You've been really integral in making sure this meeting happened, and we're really grateful to you for that. We're interested in hearing your perspective on the meeting today.
Well, first up, I just want to say to Ibrahim and to Faria, fair play to you, and to any content moderators that might be watching this. You can be very, very proud of your colleagues. They absolutely did you proud today. They left the Taoiseach in no doubt as to what is wrong with your terms and conditions. They left him in no doubt as to what it is that needs to be done. So we as legislators, and you know, I am a former trade union official, so I come at this from maybe both sides, but we as legislators in particular have a duty of care. I mean, at the end of the day, the content moderators are protecting us, they're protecting me, they're protecting my family. So the very, very least that the state should do is to be able to step in to ensure that they are protected. And we are talking about very basic protections in an industry and in a job where PTSD is a noted consequence of the work. So first and foremost, there absolutely has to be meaningful mental health supports, and that's not what is in place at the moment. There needs to be proper mental health support. So we know that in other walks of life where people are doing this work, be they working for a tech giant or indeed for An Garda Síochána, that there are protocols and strict protocols in place. So it is recognised by the state that this is, it's essentially dangerous work. It is dangerous for your health and for your mental health. And therefore, as with all hazardous work, there needs to be checks and balances put in place, but also protection. So I think there is urgent work to be done. Today was a very important first step. I was absolutely delighted to be able to work with Foxglove and with the moderators and with the CWU to help facilitate this meeting. I think it's good that the Taoiseach, who, as well as being the Deputy Head of Government, is also the Minister with responsibility for jobs and enterprise, and particularly for the Data Protection Commissioner, as we know, is the regulator in this area. So he has a very important, a very pivotal role to play. And I felt it was very, very necessary that he would hear firsthand from the people who are doing this work, and would hear firsthand exactly what the terms and conditions are like. I very much welcome the fact that he has undertaken to write to the companies. I very much welcome the fact that he came to the meeting, as I would say, with an open mind, and he was willing to listen and to take on board the concerns and to convey those to the outsourced company and to the tech company as well, to Facebook. So I think, you know, what we can do as legislators is to work with people like Foxglove, like Phoenix Law, like the CWU, which is what we should be doing, listening to those people who are doing this work, and we can ensure that we can legislate where it is required, but also in the first instance that we provide a platform. So I'm looking forward to doing more work on this. This was a first step, but it's a long road, but I'm very much, I'm happy to be involved, happy to support, and also looking forward to the work that we will be doing in the coming weeks and months.
Thanks so much, Louise. And last, before we come to questions, over to you, Fionnuala. So Fionnuala is the head of organising for the Communication Workers Union in Ireland.
Thank you, Martha, and thank you all for being here. I'd like to echo the sentiments of my fellow speakers already in saluting the bravery of Paria and Ibrahim in their sense of solidarity that they're showing towards their colleagues, not just here in Ireland in their thousands, but across the world. It's an act of bravery that will potentially bring about great change for those colleagues. But I did want to speak very specifically on just one topic that has come up throughout the other contributions, which is the non-disclosure agreements. Our information is that content moderators are required to sign non-disclosure agreements at the start of their employment. They're not given a copy of these non-disclosure agreements to retain for themselves for reference. As trade unions, we have a long experience of workers having a fear of speaking out, of talking to a trade union, let alone of joining a trade union. Due to the culture of these workplaces from the very start, when they sign and they're required to sign these non-disclosure agreements, and all throughout their employment when they're reminded that they have signed these non-disclosure agreements, has a chilling effect. And that atmosphere is where workers fear retaliation, that both Paria and Ibrahim have detailed so well, means that they do not feel that they can vindicate their right to raise legitimate issues and concerns in their workplaces. And they are legitimate issues and concerns that the Taoiseach heard today. And we believe as trade unionists that the only way that workers can progress their rights in a long-term framework is to build their power within a trade union movement. And we're committing today to support those workers, those content moderators here in Ireland and across the world in solidarity to vindicate those rights and to help them correct the wrongs that they so eloquently described to the Taoiseach today. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Fionnuala, and thanks to everyone who's spoken today, and particularly to you, Ibrahim and Paria, for your bravery here. So shortly we will go to questions from the press. So if anyone in the Zoom call has questions, please make sure that you're sending your details to William. So first up, we will go to Angel from Forbes. David, if you could unmute Angel, and Angel, if you could turn your video on to ask the question, that would be fantastic.
Angel, I'm asking you to unmute. You need to click yes, I think.
Hi there. Ibrahim and Paria, thank you so much for your bravery. Oh, let me start my video. Hang on, give me 1 second. Hi there. Hi, thank you so much for speaking out. Incredibly brave. I have a few questions, but I'll go with the first, which is personally for the both of you, what is the best case scenario?
Ibrahim, perhaps you could start us off if that's okay.
Sorry, I kind of need a bit of a clarification. Best case scenario from the meeting, or the best case scenario do we want to achieve in general?
From the meeting.
I think, of course, just getting to sit with Taoiseach Leo Varadkar is very important of itself. It's the first of such that moderators were to reach such a high level and to be heard. That in itself kind of highlights such an issue that we are doing such a crucial job, but we are swept under the carpet. So for us to really achieve that meeting is number one, but also to kind of clarify to the Taoiseach that there is a separation of treatment. Our safety is number one. Working from the office while tech the other tech clients or the other tech employees are working from home. During COVID, they have received some sort of financial support from their companies where we haven't. So that is to kind of highlight the separation of treatment, but also our mental health support. It's not fair that for me to do such a crucial job where I'm at a stage of my life where I love this job. I really enjoy it because I get to help people without asking for a thank you in return. But I shouldn't suffer for the rest of my life or the rest of the stages in my life for doing such a job at this stage. So that is also crucial to kind of highlight and iterate the importance of mental health with the employees, and that is there, and the separation of treatment again, and outsourcing in itself, because these tech giants, it's very important for them to come into Ireland, and it's very important for them to create jobs. But as Paria had mentioned with the Taoiseach, that recently TikTok has employed a lot of people from Covalent and the other outsourcing companies to actually work for them. So the job can be done straight away for the company. It can be done straight away without being outsourced. But the fact is, we are still being outsourced, and we are treated distinguishably different, pay-wise, sick leave-wise, mental health-wise. So we do hope that that all can be acknowledged, recognized, and for the Taoiseach to write to Facebook to tell them that he has met, he has heard, and we do hope that we can create some change from that for all of our employees, not just for myself and Parry.
Thanks so much, Ibrahim. Angela, you mentioned you have a couple of questions. If it's okay, we'll circle back to you at the end if there's time. Would that be okay?
Yeah, that's totally fine. Thank you so much.
Paria, is there anything you wanted to add, or should we move on from that?
All
Fantastic. Okay. So next up, James Ward from the Press Association. If you could turn on your camera, and David, if you could unmute James, please.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey. Yeah, just a question for Ibrahim. You mentioned they're working shifts that start at 6 a.m. and finish at 2 a.m. I'm wondering, how regularly would you work those kind of shifts? What kind of breaks are you given in that time?
Yeah, perfect. So there is a couple of shifts. You know, some start at 7 and whatnot at 4, and some start at 8. But my shift is an evening shift, and they finish at start at 6 p.m. and start at 2 a.m. We do have an hour break for the whole day. I have stressed the system of control that is happening, and that, again, to reiterate the separation of employees for such tech giants and us, is that if I do you know, past my break time by 15 seconds, 10 seconds, I am considered unavailable on the system, and I will not receive my bonus. And of course, if that is repeated again, I will be sitting within a disciplinary hearing, which is not fair on me, because sometimes, you know, when we are hired for such a job, we are told that if you do feel like taking a break and walking away from the computer, do. And how could I possibly do that? If I were to do that, I will be considered unavailable, and if not, then I have to take it from my hour break, which is impossible to really accomplish.
Thank you. And just with regards to, I'm not sure if you can speak about this, but if you could give us an idea of the type of content that you're faced with on a daily basis that maybe is particularly traumatizing or difficult to moderate.
So I do apologize, but I think I would be in breach of contract if I did mention.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you, Ibrahim.
If I may, I wonder, Corey, if you wanted to say anything about so Corey, you spend a lot of time speaking to content moderators across Europe and in Ireland. Do you want to say anything about your understanding of the types of material that's being viewed by content moderators?
I mean, the other thing I would add, actually, is that although Facebook saber rattles about this point, you know, actually speaking in general about the kinds of content as a matter of public record, and actually moderators should be able to describe it. It's not as if people don't know that people sit in front of beheadings and child abuse and terrorism and bullying day in and day out. I think what's important to know is that the companies know that that has a psychological effect, and that Accenture, another major outsourcing company with offices in Dublin and elsewhere, at the beginning of last year, gave all of the outsourced staff an acknowledgement that they were made to sign, saying in black and white, I understand that exposure to this extremely graphic content runs the risk of giving me PTSD, and essentially seeking to push responsibility onto individual workers like Ibrahim, and that's just unacceptable. But I mean, in a way, the types of toxic content are very well trodden, I think.
Fantastic, thank you. Thanks, James. Next, we'll go to Izzy from Protocol, please. Izzy, David, could you unmute Izzy? And Izzy, if you could turn your video on, please.
I'm here. Thank you guys so much for doing this and for speaking with us. I have a question for Ibrahim and Paria, and then also I think for Corey. In addition to, seeking the ability to work from home, a lot of us are finding ourselves having to take care of family members who are sick, or if we've had exposure. Can you talk through a little bit of what allowances you're given if you have a family member at home that you need to care for, or if you yourself have been exposed? What kind of, do you have time off from the job? And then separately, Corey, I think this might be for you. Are you guys seeking any similar meetings with elected officials in the US, where, in Texas, moderators have also returned to work? Thank you, guys.
Corey, do you want to take the second part of that question first?
Super quickly, we'd absolutely love to. And at one of the things that makes this meeting historic, as I said, is that these two have been the first who have been prepared to stick their necks out in public, right, and run the risk of retaliation from the companies. But now, once we have shown that actually this is within everyone's perfect right to do so, this is a matter of public debate, it's appropriate conditions to raise. We'd like to see other legislators kind of everywhere that this work is performed, turning their attention to this issue. The horrible events at the Capitol this month showed us that what happens on Facebook and social media doesn't stay there. We rely on these people to keep our public square safe and clean. And so I think it's really overdue that how these workers are treated and the relationship between the front end and the back end of social media actually gets looked at by legislators everywhere. So we'd love to do it. We haven't asked yet, but now that we've shown that it's possible, I think we will follow up.
If Paria wants to take that, because I think I spoke too much, so if Paria wants to.
So if somebody contact with somebody that has a COVID, they can stay at home for 2 weeks. So during that time, they can work from home. It's all I know about it. There's not much benefit on that. It's just you don't get any benefit. Just you are allowed to work at home for 2 weeks if somebody get COVID and take care of.
I think just to kind of elaborate on that point real quickly, of course we are, if we are contracted with COVID, we are allowed to isolate at home for 14 days and work from home. But it's kind of the issue of actually coming into the office recently, and we have to queue up for our temperature to be measured, only to contract that there is COVID cases from inside the building. So there is a whole procedure where they do take measurements of temperature, but all the cases were from inside the building. And that for myself is really worrying, because I had complained to the company and I have told them that my mom is a recovering cancer patient and there's only me and my sister that take shifts on my parents. So it's unfair that I would have to come during these difficult times and move around the building and whatnot, and come back home. And the response that was given, and it really annoyed me, was well, try to stay away from them. Well, how am I meant to stay away from my loved ones? It was kind of even funny that there was another person in the company that his wife was at risk, so she was allowed to stay at home, but he wasn't. And he was like, how am I meant to sleep next to my wife? And they were just like, stay away. So it's unrealistic, to be honest, at these difficult times. And we were promised that if we were to return to work, that if there was a COVID case, that they would shut the building for 72 hours. And we are not Facebook employees, and that is clear, and Facebook has made it clear. But when we had complained to Covalent that you guys promised us to close for 72 hours for a deep clean, they said the client refused for us to close the building, which is very, very unfair.
And just to be clear, the client that Ibrahim's talking to is Facebook, presumably. Okay, thanks so much. Next, we have a question, I think, from Jack at the Irish Times. I'm just trying to see Jack. Can you?
Yeah, hi, how's it going? Just a question for either Ibrahim or Paria. In relation to, you spoke about the kind of fear of potential retaliation for being the kind of the first to speak up. You might just maybe speak slightly more to that in terms of, I mean, are you afraid that you could lose your jobs, or what are you afraid of in terms of that retaliation?
So we signed a contract that they clearly telling us we are not allowed to talk to media or anything. We are not allowed to talk about work, anything outside the work. Even when I started, they told me I'm not even allowed to talk to my husband about the job. So what I just think, then it's just like we don't know what action they're gonna take, disciplinary, because even people talk inside in intranet, they suspend us when they raise an issue like us. They just put it and people just start to commenting on the issue. They suspend us. Suspend the people, or just what they do, just disable the comments. So I don't know really when I go back to work what action they're gonna take. over that I'm talking about my health and safety at work. It's not something, it's not about work, but it's just about the condition on work. So to be honest, I don't know. I don't know what the reaction gonna be, and I worked there almost 5 years, and I think it was the time to speak up, because it's not about work. 5 years, I showed them how much I am confidential about my work, but this is about my health and safety, and this COVID situation just was my last drop of water to just say, no, I can't be silent. So I have to be treated same as the other person working at FD, because we work on the same content, and that's thing.
Thanks, Paria. Ibrahim, Corey, or Dara, I wondered if there's anything any of you wanted to add to that.
Ibrahim, no?
Well, to be honest, I was kind of going to elaborate on that, and just that, you know, we're not here to kind of like, you know, say we hate our jobs or there is some personal dispute between us and Covalent. It is really to stress that we need the same treatment. It's unfair that the person above me who works for the tech giant or the client will receive double my salary, or will receive help during difficult times financially. And that is really, really, you know, we get that respond of like, oh, they have the VHI private insurance scheme, which in the end comes out of my pocket, so I have to pay for a private doctor to tell them, you know, that I am stressed and need time out, and it shouldn't be like that. You know, a psychiatrist or psychologist are allowed and they are required to go see other psychiatrists or psychologists to explain to them what they hear. So I think you can imagine, if we're seeing such things, that we do need to be taken care of. We need to, you know, be able to leave. Everyone wants to separate their private life from their job, but when the job becomes so difficult, you end up taking your job home, and it starts to have a negative impact on the people surrounding you and your loved ones, and that's not right, and it shouldn't be like that. And the fear of speaking up, I personally don't know what's going to happen, like Paria, and you know, I always say that hopefully, you know, I will pursue my law career, but for a lot of people, this is their bread making job. This is the job that really, you know, that they depend on and meet their ends and provide for their kids. So it really is shameful that I have to take every bad treatment and remain quiet, just so I wouldn't be in a breach of contract that I myself don't even know if it's lawful, that I'm not allowed to speak about my work conditions.
I don't think it is lawful. Just to say very briefly, Foxglove has spoken to over 75 content moderators in about half a dozen countries now, Europe and in the United States. And people, Paria and Ibrahim are saying the things that they have told us for a year and a half. But they're all been too afraid to speak publicly. They've been afraid to blow the whistle. And that is what we hope will end today.
Thanks so much, Corey. The next question we have is from Una Malali.
Hi, thanks so much, Paria and Ibrahim. I just have a question for maybe Corey and maybe Louise as well. Just basically, there's obviously the stuff that Ibrahim and Paria are talking about relates to CPL or Covalent, but I was wondering what you guys' level of engagement is with Accenture. Obviously, they're also headquartered in Dublin, so I was just wondering if you have any insight into whether they're engaging in an Irish context to improve conditions, or whether they're talking at all with you guys, or have any interest in addressing similar concerns in their own operations here.
Quick answer, I have no direct engagement with Accenture executives or anything like it. We do have contacts with content moderators at Accenture, although actually mainly in other European sites and in the United States. That one thing I would just emphasize is that acknowledgement I mentioned about, you know, I acknowledge that I may get PTSD in the work and kind of shoving the responsibility on the workers. That wasn't Covalent, that was Accenture. That was them. So there's a lot to learn and, you know, and to improve on in all the outsourcing companies, and our honest view at Foxglove is that this work is so core to the platform that a lot of the issues could actually be addressed by Facebook doing what TikTok did and bringing it in-house.
Thank you. And Louise?
I think that's the key, actually, just in terms of bringing the work in-house, valuing it like for the essential work that it is, and looking to other platforms where they have brought this work in-house. Like I can't stress enough how important the work is that the content moderators are doing. It's not, I'm not a massive fan of outsourcing as it goes anyway, but this is the type of work for which you want to keep continuity of service. You want to have that organizational memory. You want to have people who will be committed to the job. But the only way to make them committed to the job in that way, in terms of a long-term commitment, is to ensure that they are treated decently and that they get the supports that they should be entitled to. And just one point for anyone who isn't based here in Ireland, it is currently government policy that every single person who can work from home must be working from home. We are at level 5 COVID restrictions. Every person and the Taoiseach, the Taoiseach, every member of cabinet, every TD, we're sick of saying it, every person that can work at home should be working at home. So it is not acceptable to say to people in any event, if you can work at home, you should work at home. But in the middle of a global pandemic, when there is a very obvious comparator in the company, in the high-tech company that's doing the outsourcing, they're saying on the one hand, well, our content moderators, the people who do that work, they're very special, they're very important, they're very essential, and they can work from home. But then we're going to turn a blind eye to what's happening. And I think that's, you know, for me, that's what I took away from what's been said at the moment. It's a little bit upstairs, downstairs. And when we're talking about work like this, we simply cannot allow that to go on.
Thanks, Louise. Una, did you have another part of your question that was for Ibrahim, or?
I can't remember it now, sorry.
Right, that's great, thanks so much. Okay, so we are almost at time, but I think we have time for a few more questions. Angel at Forbes, we will come back to you for your follow-up question, and if anyone has any last minute questions, please send them through to Will now. Thank you.
Hey again. Are you guys preparing at all for any kind of a response or communication from Facebook?
Dara, I wonder if you might take that, or Corey. Dara, perhaps.
Yes. So originally we had been engaging with Facebook in the lead up to today's meeting to try and pave the way in terms of transparency as to what we wish to discuss. Obviously, we didn't get very far in terms of clarity or comfort for Ibrahim or Paria. We don't think today is the end of the process, as is clear from the Taoiseach's comments and certainly from Louise's comments earlier. This is only the start. We have further representations we would like to make to Facebook about and Covalent about the recommendations that we hope can be enforced and brought in to try and ensure that the internal processes within Facebook are more in line with what workers' rights would be expected. And I know that Corey's already outlined in great detail what we say should be expected and what must be expected as very, very bottom basic fundamental rights for workers, which we say at the minute are presently absent.
Thank you, Derek. Corey, do you want to come in on that, or?
I mean, we nagged them is the long and the short of it. We actually nagged them. We wrote them several letters and said, hi, this is happening. We're going to raise the following several issues. If you seek to block them speaking, then please could you disclose the NDAs on which you seek to rely? We do not have them. We don't have the documents.
Thank you, Corey. I think that is it for questions, but just before we close out, for Nuala, can I check if there's anything that you wanted to add in response to the questions that have been asked? Fine, if not.
Do you have any particular questions in mind, or?
No, I just wanted to check if there was anything you wanted to add. Completely fine if not. So I will just finish by saying a huge thank you to everyone who took part in the meeting today and is here with us now, and to all of you for joining us, and to anyone watching on the live stream. We look forward to seeing and hearing about what the Taoiseach does from this point moving forwards, and look forward to encouraging him to keep to the commitments he made today. And if you're interested in hearing more about Foxglove, you can read about our work with content moderators on our website or follow us on Twitter at Foxglove Legal. And if you yourself are a content moderator, we would love to hear from you. There is a secure way to get in touch with us on our Twitter bio. Paria and Ibrahim, a particularly big thank you to you. Thanks so much for your time and your bravery, and it's a pleasure working with you both. And thanks to everyone, and we'll leave it there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.